Hello, and welcome to the second edition of Living Music. Today's title is called The Map is Not the Territory. That's an old saying from neurolinguistic programming, which refers to the general idea that a symbolic representation of something is not actually that thing. It seems like a no-brainer, but oftentimes we get caught in symbols that describe things and not actually in the things that they describe themselves. And so neurolinguistic programming used the idea of the map as sort of a, well, I have this symbol that represents these things, but oftentimes when I do these things, there's a lot different than how easy the symbol sounds. So if we think of a map of a path that leads through a forest, oftentimes that map will not include elevation data, it won't include things that might change due to weather or season, like if it's wintertime and there's snow, the path might not be easy to find. And if you're perceptive, you'll find that one day the path looks like this and the next day the path might be a little different. Obviously not as different as if you did it this year and in 10 years, depending on how well that forest is maintained. Most maps of paths in the woods are about getting from here to there. Sometimes they're about the path itself, but usually not. In music, of course, there is no getting from here to there. It's all about the path itself. In classical music, quite often we're called to play from sheet music, which is basically just a written map of symbols representing the notes that we want to play, the different aspects of how to play those notes, how to connect the notes together. Often like reading a text from a book. And that skill, sight reading, being able to sit down and look at the sheet music and then just play it pretty much as written, is an invaluable skill. However, oftentimes it kind of reduces our expressive potential because we haven't really given any deep thought into how does this piece work, or what is this piece about. So once we've kind of gained that general idea of, okay, what's actually there on the page, the idea is to create a multi-dimensional map within our mind, which greatly includes sensory memory. What do I mean by that? I mean, we see the notes on the page, and I try to remember what they look like. If I don't have to memorize the piece, obviously it's not as important that I remember exactly what they look like because I have the piece of paper in front of me, or more recently on my tablet or whatever. The key then, in addition to that visual stimulus, I try to remember what the things sound like that I want to play, not just the highness or lowness of the pitch, but also of the connection of those pitches to one another, or the type of articulation that I play, so that I'm thinking of that's the thing that I'm going to convey with this note, and then I connect it to these, moving to that direction. Also, on a more kinesthetic level, I try to remember how I feel when I play the notes. Like, I have to push different valves, and remembering those different valves in conjunction with the sound that I'm making, in conjunction with what I see, creates a very detailed map and also allows different levels of memory. Obviously, my senses of smell and taste are not quite as involved, but as I play 3 or 4 different tubas, my F tuba, for example, is silver plated, so I smell the silver plating, and I can sometimes even taste the silver plating. Maybe not all that pleasant. My C tuba is lacquered, and my B flat tuba that I don't play very often is not lacquered. It's raw brass, which definitely is a very distinct smell and distinct taste. And all of those things can create a very detailed close-knit map that allows me to orientate myself on those things while performing. Even more so, it becomes important in the two types of attention that a person can pay to something. What do I mean by that? Ian McGilchrist, in his book The Master and His Emissary, talks about the two different hemispheres of the brain. And their fundamental difference is that they pay attention to the world in different ways. If you will, that they view the world differently. Our left brain is very object orientated, very detailed orientated, very manipulation of objects orientated. What do I mean by that? Well, simply like this cup of coffee here. I see it, I hold it, I can do this with it. If somebody attacks me, I can hit him with it, or whatever. Please don't go hitting people with your coffee cups. The left brain is responsible for that type of thing. The right brain is a more big picture type of attention. It sees the interconnectedness, the entire process. Also, it can feel more wonder. It has more of a living attitude towards the world. It sees, let's say, things, if you were to sum it up, the right brain sees things as subjects and the left brain sees things as objects. Obviously, it is far more complex than that. If you want to pick it up, this is McGilchrist's main book about it, The Master and His Emissary. And as you can see, it's pretty big, and the print is very small. So the most important factor in performing music, obviously, is not can I play the right notes, not can I play the right expressive texts, but rather, what is this music trying to convey? How does this music speak to me, if you will, or what do I feel when I listen to this music? Or how can I convey these things to an audience that's listening to me? And when I say feeling, I mean something much more subtle than, oh, this piece is joyful, or this piece is sad, or this is good, or this is bad. In a relaxed and non-threatened human being, our feelings tend to be more subtle. Like, I feel an openness here in my chest and a lightness to the things that I'm doing. Instead of just saying, oh yeah, I'm relaxed, man. And they're more complex than just, I feel good, I feel bad. And the more I can attach, or the more I can tap into those emotional subtleties that I have, and how they connect with the music or how they connect with the world around me, the less susceptible I am to falling into sort of a fight, flight, or freeze reaction when I'm performing. Very often we tend to do so when we perform. We think I did a good job today or I did a bad job today. The music is either right or it's wrong. Or somebody's either a great performer or they're an awful performer. We tend to black and white things very quickly instead of being more nuanced. What type of performer am I listening to, or what type of music am I listening to? What does it have on different qualities? You know, when we eat different types of foods, obviously, you know, okay, something might taste good and might taste bad. But quite often, if we're a little bit more open, we'll see, well, you know, there's this aspect of this thing that tastes good, and there's that there, it's not so good. And, you know, I probably wouldn't eat this again, but I have different levels of appreciation for what it is that made that thing. And the more nuanced and subtle our feelings are when we perform music, the easier it becomes to perform. And it's not about I'm trying to impress, but rather trying to express something that comes out of my deep understanding for the music that I'm trying to perform, or whatever it is. And the last idea that kind of in tune with that is every day that I play a piece of music, it's different than the last time. It'll never be exactly the same. And too often we think of that as a deficiency or an impurity in our performance power that needs to be gotten rid of. But it's that very thing that makes our performance now valuable. It's that very thing, that connection between performer and piece and audience that cannot be recreated. And somehow it fills us with wonder and somehow allows us to see the world possibly in a less objective way. And that, quite honestly, is what we should be trying to accomplish as musicians. Thank you. We'll see you in another week or so.